All right, we are live. I really want to thank Jeff Bell for being on tonight. This is fantastic. I just listened to his Devi shows are phenomenal, especially for someone in the dynasty like me who's learning the Devi side of stuff. But I just want to say thanks for coming on, Jeff. Welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast. This is me just yapping into a headset, which I love to do, and I get to talk to us fans football like yourself, us fans football minds like yourself, that I meet on Twitter or in person somewhere else. I'm talking to you about your football, some hobbies, some other fun questions. We'll jump into some commissioner questions, some settings that you prefer in some leagues, NFL news and rumors, some injuries, some week 15 playoff waiver wire targets. We'll review some trades that went down in my home leagues, the Mighty McGlynn home leagues, and as usual, we'll evaluate a team, see what we would do to recommend either rebuild, remodel, or and the steps we could do to do it. So, first of all, tell me about yourself, where the Twitter machine can find you, and what you do in the fantasy football community that makes people want to follow you, like myself.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, John. I appreciate it. We got the opportunity to talk before, and I'm so thankful to be on the show. You can find me on Twitter at 4WhomJBellTolls, the number 4. You can find me with Fantasy Pros. I do Devi content with them. I do Dynasty. I write random articles with them. If you ever have a question that you're curious about, want somebody to dive into it, I'm certainly happy to do that. And you can reach out and do that, and I can put together a project for you and put it up on Fantasy Pros. You can find me. I do the Debbie Royale, the show that just ended Tuesday nights at 9:30 Eastern on the Twitter machine and on YouTube and all those great avenues. I also do a show called Coming Off the Edge at 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights.
Absolutely awesome. I don't know. Do you do IDP and stuff like that too?
I am in one IDP league. I am in the Fantasy Frames IDP league, the charity league, and so that was my. I dabbled like years ago. So I've played fantasy football for 20 years, and so it was probably maybe a decade ago. I did like an IDP league. I did a league that had return yards. It was one of those things that before Twitter was really a thing, and Yahoo used to have these random free leagues that you could join that might have like weird settings. And so it was one of those that I had just had like my home league that we've been going on for 20 years and a couple like a work league. And I was like, well, I want to get into a little bit more different fantasy leagues. And so I joined an IDP league then, and I played in a return yards league then. And so I've played in all different sorts of leagues. Right now, I just do the one IDP league. It's not really my forte. The people that do it are so smart and so good at it. It's one of those that I'm going in my avenues and comfortable in my avenues, and I don't know that I can really expand all that much further.
I don't know how you do what you do already, but let alone that kind of stuff. But it was awesome to meet you in person at Fantasy Football Expo in Canton. Um, as a person like myself who's pretty heavy in Dynasty, tell me why I should not just jump down the rabbit hole of this Devi stuff that we're talking about.
My biggest thing would be if you enjoy college football. If you're the type that you enjoy college football, you like to watch the games, and really if you like to get ahead of people in your leagues, and especially in dynasty leagues. So I look at it as you talk about the different types of leagues, and I think that playing all of them can really help build you and round you out. Like playing dynasty, I think it changes your mindset for a redraft league because you're used to your kind of time breakouts a little bit more, and playing in a Devi league, that changes your mindset for a typical dynasty league, because instead of saying I've got random late first pick, you're kind of having those players narrowed down in your mind who's going to go in that range even a year out in advance. And so I think that's where, if you enjoy college football, if just football is something that you really want to get into, just adding that extra layer, because you're going to have your Devi draft, you're going to have your dispersal draft, like filling in the cracks. The guys like Zach Wilson last year wasn't on many Devi rosters, and so you still have those drafts. It's just adding an extra level and giving you another tradable asset, giving you another player to watch on Saturdays, but also teaching you and giving you that mindset of who's up and coming.
I know you're a homer for Ohio teams, but we had season tickets to Notre Dame games for probably 30 years in our family. I went to 5 Notre Dame games a year since I was 5 years old, all the way through when high school started, before Friday night lights were a thing. All our games were on Saturday afternoon, so that was my stoppage of going to Notre Dame football games when I got into high school. But I would be picking up, throughout the years, the Ricky Waters, the Tim Browns, that no matter how good, no matter how bad they are, I would have picked them up just because they're Notre Dame. How do you not pick up the guys from Ohio State?
Well, fortunately from Ohio State, they're worth picking up because they end up they usually hit and do pretty well, and so it's just one of those that I think that I do a pretty good job of divorcing my fanhood when it comes to fantasy. Um, you know, I'm a Bills fan, and we haven't had a quarterback since Jim Kelly, as you can see behind me. Getting Josh Allen now, that's made me a little bit more aggressive in Dynasty of this is my guy, and so I want to have him on my team just to have fun. When it comes to the Buckeyes, I mean, certainly there might be a minor slight lean, but at the same time, it's hard calling a guy a homer when half the people have like a guy like Garrett Wilson as their wide receiver one anyways. It's like I can't move him up above number one, and there's a lot of other people that are on that block too.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of this whole fantasy football experience? Did you playing in old redraft leagues, old school redraft style leagues, DFS stuff, best ball, dynasty, Debbie leagues, podcasting, writing? What's your favorite thing, your go-to thing that you love doing?
I love writing. Writing is like that. That's something that I think that it gives me an avenue that I enjoy. It's a creative outlet that I enjoy. And then when it comes to playing in leagues, dynasty leagues are really my forte. It's one of these that even as a young kid, like I used to, like fourth grade, like I would get my football cards and I would shuffle them all up and I would make teams and I would, kind of keep stats and everything like that. And so I've had that mindset for 30 plus years of like, even more so. I was the small, slow kid, and we all know the small, slow kid, and they're not going to be the football star. And so it was one of those things that I was more interested on, like the coaching side of the team building side, even from a kid. Like that was like, I looked at it as like, well, I can't run as fast as my friends, but I can know more than them because I'm a little bit, I don't know, I consider myself to be a mildly smart guy. And so it's one of these that I've just had, fortunately, like players are like, it's almost like I have an encyclopedia in my head. It comes very easy to me to like know these guys, know that where they went to school. And so blending all those just different interests into dynasty football, I feel like and Debbie is great, and I love like playing that as well, but it's really just the meat and potatoes dynasty league where you're taking a team in a direction, you're having a vision for a team, and you're looking at whose values are going up, whose values are going down. Fortunately, I'm in so many of those that it doesn't allow me to really dial in like I would really like to, but that's what I really enjoy.
Yeah, I'm in 19 leagues. I've been playing since like 1997-ish kind of thing, the same thing.
Yeah.
But I make the mistakes of trading away guys like Josh Allen when they're not panning out after a year and a half or 2 years, and even like I made the move of trading away Dak Prescott for Michael Thomas and Drew Brees when I was in a win what now move, and it's like, man, like I wish I would have had these assets back instead of just going for the win now. Sometimes it's so tough. I can only imagine how it is with seeing kids coming out of high school into college and waiting for them to get to the pros. That's got to be tough. But
It is like, well, yeah, like guy like Travion Henderson, I'm very excited for him at Ohio State, but I also want to see how does this work to the NFL, or a guy like Bijan Robinson that, the 2023 class, you hear people talk about acquiring 2023 picks, and that's really what they're talking about, Bijan and a couple of these other running backs. And it's one of those that I've got some zero RB teams that like I want to have running backs on, but I don't really love any of the running backs in the 2022 class. And I'm like, well, now I'm going to wait another year until I can get
I feel sorry
the
for you,
running back.
man. What do you do for a living? And are you happy where you're at in this point in your career?
Yeah, I'm a CPA. So during tax season, I am completely slammed. And unfortunately, that also butts up to draft season. So it's one of these that I hear a lot of people in the, a lot of people in the space are like, oh, I'm going to be able to come up and take a breath. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, well, things are about to just get a little bit more crazy. And so I really enjoy it. I do taxes and I do other work around accounting. It's something that I've done for, let's see, I graduated college in 2006. So I'm in year 15 now of being an accountant. So it's my career. I'm not, fantasy football is a passion, and
Yeah.
being able to monetize your passions is fantastic, but I don't have any delusions that writing a random article is going to replace the income that I was provided to my family by doing my
Yeah.
day job.
My son's going to school to be a accountant. It's hopefully CPA one day somewhere. So he's going to be right behind in your footsteps, hopefully, and hopefully as successful as yourself.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. Yeah, it's a solid profession. It's a good career.
yeah. I was about to ask, how do you find time to balance all this stuff? I mean, you kind of answered some of it already, but I got a wife, 4 kids, 4 dogs, a full-time job, overtime, 19 lineups, 19 league-setting lineups that I got to do every, Thursday, now Saturday, Sunday, Monday. How do you find time to balance all this stuff?
Poorly. I don't know. It's you do your best. You try to, you certainly prioritize. Family comes first. I think that is an important thing to recognize, especially with the kids. I've got 3 little girls. They're ages 6.5 to 3 months, and so when they're awake and when they're around, I try my best to stay off of Twitter, but I don't always do the best job on that. But certainly, I'm not like writing a piece when they're up, and then
Yeah.
when they're in bed, it's just one of those that when you find the time to do the things that you enjoy and that you love. And so it's you got to make the time, and you got to find it, and you got to prioritize. Yeah, Jeff doesn't sleep. Jeff sleeps. Jeff sleeps. He has random nights when there's nothing that's to do and the kids are down, and Jeff will sleep an 11-hour stretch, and then Jeff will sleep like 4 hours for a couple of nights.
That's what you got to do, man. That's what you got to do. My youngest one is 17. I have a 17, an 18, a 21, and a 25-year-old. So I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum as yourself.
Yes. Yeah, you've experienced the young kids, because that's the other problem, is that it's one of these that it's like I think about, like, well, I can stay up until like midnight or 1, just like I did like when I was a teenager. The problem is that wake up call is coming at 5 o'clock in the morning regardless, because these 3.5-year-old is ready to go. And so that's one of these that you can get those hours back in the morning when they get a little bit older.
Right. That's my wife worked 3 to 11, and I had all 4 kids at home by myself. And I coached football and baseball, and I even coached cheerleading for 1 year when the coach quit. So, I mean, I didn't have time to do anything back in the day, nothing much. So now I'm finally like, now that I'm in my mid 40s and my wife, the kids are growing up and they're kind of self sufficient, I finally have time to jump into my favorite hobby, and I'm kind of making the best of it. I could probably do a little bit more, but it's kind of a young kids game now at this point in time. It's just a hobby for me, I'm not trying to be break the ice here on break the ceiling here on this fantasy career, but it's nice. It is it's something, it's fun. I love doing it. So
I agree.
what is your favorite hobby now, before fantasy football? What was your favorite thing to do? Was fantasy football pretty much, did you do anything else?
I mean, I like all sport. I'm your classic. I like baseball, basketball, football growing up, and so I'll I've kind of, I don't know. Baseball's been tough, I feel like, because I'm a Tigers fan, and when your team is bad, it's real easy to check out completely on Major League Baseball, that unless you're the type that you are a complete diehard on it. NBA is something that I NBA college basketball, it's more like there's windows of like March Madness is awesome, but like I don't really get into the December Ohio State's playing
Right.
Wisconsin game too much. And then the NBA playoffs, I think, are a lot of fun in the summer. My real hobbies, and I played golf in high school, so I like to play golf whenever I can. That's another thing that's very difficult to do with kids, because you can't really go play golf at 11 o'clock at night to have some time to yourself. And so when the daylight hours are up, they're up as well. So that's something that when I can find the time, I like to do. I like playing video games. I'm a kid of the 90s, and so I grew up with Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all that, and so I've just
Yep.
grown up on that. So when I can get some time away, I still fire up NCAA 14, because they haven't had one since for me. But and like I grew up on Zelda, so like I'll play that on the Breath of the Wild on Switch
Mm-hmm.
now, or like, I love watching movies and TV shows. So I've binged about every TV show that you can imagine, and I watched about every movie that's come out in the last 40 years too.
That's awesome. I got it. This is my garage where I kind of do my stuff at here. I got a
Yeah,
Nintendo set up here. Where I have Tecmo Bowl, RBI baseball,
there we
all
go.
the Blades of Steel, like all the games that we played in high school, college stuff. So
I
it's
got it's a stack right behind me. So,
Mike Tyson's Punch Out. There you go. You got
yeah.
Tecmo Bowl right there.
Tecmo Bowl
Nice.
right there. So yeah, I've got them on the shelf. Like I don't have the Nintendo anymore, but I've still ended up with the cartridges from my parents' house. But I got like the mini Super Nintendo that came out a couple years ago, floating around somewhere. So it's just I grew up on video games. I grew up in the country, and so like it was like I had my cousins down the road, but I wasn't running around a neighborhood or like playing with the neighborhood kids. And it was one of those that I was the oldest of 4 kids, so my parents were busy taking care of the younger kids, and I was spending time by myself basically. And so like I would collect baseball cards and like build teams like I mentioned before, or like play
Yeah.
video games or watch movies, or that's really kind of how I grew up, and that never really went away.
Yeah, I figured if you're a country, I grew up in a city, and I never had a chance to hunt or fish or anything else like that. I wish I would have had. I never golfed. I played football and, believe it or not, water polo in high school. So that was kind
Okay.
of that was our things. But I wish I would have played golf because it just seems like such a. I don't have the time, the money, or the patience for golf now that I'm older. But it just looks like something that would have been a super awesome thing to pick up. Now, when you do have time, I'm sure you enjoy it.
Well, no, well, the problem is though, it's a double-edged sword because like I used to be good, like really good, and so now it's like I'm not. And so it's one of these that like I remember what I used to be able to do out here, and now you can't do it anymore. And so that like boils the frustration up when like you used to be going out breaking 80 every time you play, and now you're worried about all the way going back to breaking 100 again. It's one of these things that it's great to get out and enjoy the time, but you also realize the time commitment that's involved in really having that skill, and kind of it's not there. So it's I love being out, being able to go out, but my game is not what it used to be.
No, it's funny because the only time I really golfed in my life was like Mike Tagliere used to live a couple blocks away from me, and we would go golfing all the time. He tried to take it up as a career. He had to get golf pro, and I
Yeah.
mean he has clubs made and all that stuff. He was getting really good at it too. But then when the time came time a busy season, he had to drop it, and then he'd go back. He realized that if you take a whole 8 months off and you go out in the summertime again to try and pick it up in the slow time, you
Yep.
lose everything. It's like anything else in life. You just can't. You can't just drop it and pick it up and
It
jump back
is.
on the horse.
Yeah, it's not riding a bicycle. It's
No,
a different skill entirely.
and I'm terrible right from the get go, and I'm never going to be any better than I do like one club classics now for like charity events and stuff like that. It's about the only time I golf. I'm a big fan of the 19th hole. That's about my favorite place on the course. So
Sure, I get you.
um,
No, I get you. No, but it is funny though because when in high school we always used to do like a 3 club tournament towards at the end of the year, just our team, and you end up shooting a better score. And like the coach, it was the type of thing where the coach is like, "See, you realize like when you're not hitting your driver out of bounds, you score better." And we're like, "Yeah, sure, but it doesn't go as far, so I'm gonna hit the driver anyways."
ain't that the truth? What's your favorite Sunday afternoon food munching when you're glued to TV watching Scott Hansen in the Red Zone? What is? I got a bunch of different answers on this, so I kind of want to see what you like to eat.
So I have a gluten allergy, so I can't eat gluten. So, but what I usually like to go with, I have these, they're called Brazzi bites, and they're basically cheese balls that you can get them at like Whole Foods or like Costco, places like that. And so I like a good cheese ball. Just, it's, you bake them up and they're nice melted cheese inside. And I'll go with wings too. Being a Bills fan, I feel like that's part of me. I go with that, but I like a good wing, but a good cheese ball too.
I've been to the original wing place in Buffalo, New York, the first
Anchor
wing place
bar.
in America. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah,
We
I've
went
been there
there
too.
when Niagara Falls came driving down. We've been to like 43 states with my family because we do a lot of tournaments and stuff. We drive all over the
Okay.
place, make family vacations. So that was Buffalo was pretty cool. New York itself was pretty cool. So
Yeah, I've been I used to, like, when I was in high school, like 8th grade, our church would go help a church camp in Buffalo. And so I've been there twice like that. Like, I've been around the Bills stadium. I've never been to a Bills game. It's
Mm.
something that I need to do. So like when I was that age, I kicked around Buffalo a couple times, but other than that, I haven't been back.
I'm a Dolphins fan. I'd love to go see Buffalo play the Dolphins. I'm sure it would be a. I don't know if it would be a good game nowadays, but at one point in
My
time it would have.
my daughter is a My 6.5-year-old is a Dolphins fan, and it drives me nuts. And I always give Troy King shit. I'm like, Troy, what have you done? And he's like, I not influenced your daughter at all. I was like, I know, but she likes the colors, I think it is, and it's one of those that certainly as dad, you play into a little bit of like, how can you like the Dolphins, and that just like makes them like them more. But it's my daughter shows interest in football, and so I'm thrilled with that. And so I had to get her
Yeah.
some Dolphins pajamas for Christmas. So
All
that
right.
hurt a little bit, but it was she wanted a jersey, and I was like, well, first off, there's no Buckeyes on the Dolphins to like get you a jersey of, so it's not even like I could cheat with that fandom. And then we settled on pajamas, and I was like, okay, well, those aren't going to leave the house. And so
Yeah.
you can get some of those. It's okay.
I'm super jealous of the Bills Mafia though. That it's got to be one of the best fan bases in the country.
It's
It's
awesome.
man.
It
I just
is. It
wish I
is
was there for the
great.
parties all the time.
I know. I'd love to go to one sometime. It's absolutely great. But yeah, it's I don't know. We got to win, man. You guys are. It's like I wish that we had our start and your guys is current, because then we'd be the best team in the NFL. But it's been rough of late.
You'll be fine. Hopefully, Josh Allen's toe is okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Who's just real fast? Who would you rather have long term, Davis Mills or Kellen Mond?
Um. So hypothetically, skill wise, I would say Mond, because I think that he's got a little bit more athleticism to be able to bring you a rushing floor. But we see Davis Mills playing right now, and Davis Mills has had some decent games playing. And so uh, he's a guy that, they went like almost the exact same spot in rookie drafts. And I ended up with
Yep.
Davis Mills in a bunch of places, and especially early in the process, I was getting him in the 4th round. And so I've got him on several teams. And so given that he's playing right now, given that Houston currently doesn't have a long-term answer, assuming that Deshaun Watson's not going to come back and be their quarterback again. So I'd go with Davis Mills.
Yeah, I have him everywhere too. I just kind of every league I'm in, Kellen Mond's sitting there on the front of waiver wire, and I'm like, man, it's dynasty. I should pick this guy up, but I don't know. That was my one kind of throw-in football question in these questionnaires here.
You're
But
good.
some commissioner questions for you. I commission like 8 home dynasty leagues here, so it's one of them was like are you a redraft dynasty guy? We already answered that question. So, but do you play in any at home, like on mostly are you mostly online leagues, or you got a bunch of home leagues too?
We have a long running. It's one of these that we started in college, and so it was almost 20 years ago, and guys have dropped out, and so you have to fill in the cracks and whatnot. And
Yes.
we used to pre-COVID times and everything else, we would get together to do when it was redraft, we would get together and do just a live draft at B-dubs, because they would
Hmm.
like throw a party for you, and then they kind of
Yeah.
stopped doing that. And so we'd go there, we'd just get the free stuff. There would be like 8 out of the 12 of us would show up and get the food, and we'd do an auction. And nothing beats an auction. And that's the one thing that I feel like the Twitter space doesn't have enough of, is a good redraft auction. Like, you can't beat it. But
Yeah.
just the the adrenaline that's gets going, especially when you're in person with some people. That we transitioned to a dynasty last year. So this is year 2 of dynasty. So we did not get together for the rookie draft, but that might be something that we might need to do in the future, just to get back together again. But it's largely the same group that we did the regular redraft that we it was stages. As you grow in fantasy football, you learn more about it. And we started out with redrafts, and then we progressed to doing keepers, keeping 3 guys, and then we
Hmm.
progressed to full-blown dynasty.
That keeper situation, I never liked that. Like, it's just such an edge of some people who just got lucky in the, you know.
Yes.
So I've just never, it's never been
It,
me. But
with our last year we did. So so going way back, because you could keep it for like 3 years, and I remember I had a team one year where it was like I didn't have a quarterback, and I wanted it. I was going to trade. I traded for Tom Brady, and like I threw it was some random wide receiver, and I threw in at the end of the bench. It was like week 2. I had Kamara, and I included him in the like to get the deal done, basically thinking like, okay, well, this guy's a later draft pick. It's not like he's a first round pick, and he's stuck behind Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram. So the dude got Alvin Kamara for 4 years, and actually it was really random because 2 years ago was our last year. Actually, last year was our last year that we ran the 2 leagues concurrent. We started the dynasty, we ran the other redraft one more year, and the guy that got him from that trade forever ago, I played him in the championship game when Kamara went off in that Christmas Day game for 6
Yeah.
touchdowns, and I was like, this is how this league would end. Of like, this guy that I threw in this trade 4 years ago coming around and beating me in the championship for a 6 touchdown game, and it was almost poetic justice on the ending of the league and transition to the dynasty league.
Oh, that's so bad. I was in like probably 6 leagues. I got Kamara in that week, so I feel your pain here. That's terrible. I'm pretty lucky. Like around here, I'm in leagues like home leagues. I got the draft with Evan Silva and Rob Wozniak and Nick Scripps, my neighbor over here, and Connor Allen, Scott Sidlow, Kyle August, Steven Johnson, Colin Taylor, like Amar from 4-4, P Win. Like there's so many people in the Chicagoland area that I get to, have these home leagues with. People I found on Twitter, and it's just super cool, man. I mean, there's nothing better than home leagues.
Yeah, we've got a Columbus chats because there's a bunch of people from Columbus on Twitter too, and I feel like we need to push like this summer towards. We need to just do a live draft somewhere. I think.
Our leagues are set up. If you win the toilet bowl, you pick we have a draft lottery for all my home leagues. You get to pick the draft lottery location. If you win the league itself, then you actually pick the rookie draft location. So I have like 2 spots, 2 parties to go to every year. It's pretty nice, man. It's just another added perk. It's super cool.
That's where so like we met at draft night out, and like that was nice because like it was like the first time. It was like the first live for a lot of us. I feel like it was the first live in-person draft that we had done in a while, and so it was great to do that. I look forward to doing that again next year.
Yeah, that was literally when I started the home league here, there was probably 6 people that never done a home league before, and they were like, "So what do? We show up and we put stickers on a board? Like, how do you put? How much time do we get? What's going on?" I'm like, "Don't worry, it'll take care of itself. If you know the people, if you've been playing for a while, this thing's gonna go a lot faster than you want it to, and you'd be like, "Oh shit, it's my turn already. I don't have anybody picked out, unless you have the time to do an auction, which would be great too. Yeah, but
I had a friend that he invited me to join his like home league basically, and they did an auction, and so I could show up there year 1, and like everybody's, oh, who's this guy, and like I had like of course like memorized the scoring and everything, and so like the guys that I were buying, like nobody else was buying the guys that I was buying year 1, and I mean I crushed and I cruised the title, and I go back to the next year, and it's an auction of course, and I couldn't buy anybody because it was like anybody I bid on is just dead. It's one of those that I think probably a lot of us in the community can relate to similar situations of you getting, especially the home leagues, you get invited in, and year 1's great. Then like year 2, it's all just, we just got to stop this guy that we don't know from winning it again.
Anytime he opens his mouth, we're all going to bid it full.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. What's your favorite host site for fantasy football? I had the luxury of setting lineups, and I love Sleeper, but I'm in MFL, ESPN, Yahoo, Flea Flicker, CBS. Like I got to go through 18 different apps every time I set my lineups every week. I wish they were all on one thing, but if you were able to put them all on one, which host site would it be?
So the interface that I like the most is Sleeper. I do like Sleeper. I just think seems more intuitive, more friendly than some of the other ones. And like I played another one that you need to hit submit on, and there was one week where like I'm just used to Sleeper and I'm used to moving the guy in and he's there, and like I had made all my changes and then I missed the submit button because I'm not used to hitting the submit button, and then like I go and game start and my lineup's all jacked up. And then a random one that I really enjoy, I played this year that getting other people to migrate on is probably impossible. But have you ever heard of Dynasty Owner?
I've heard it on some I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I've heard it on one
Okay.
somebody's advertising it. Yes.
So it's like I did a charity league on there, but it was like a redraft league, but it's salary cap based. And so like you've got the players like at their real salaries, and so you can go up to the salary. And so like it just is a completely different dynamic when you're drafting, because like lower value guys will go higher. And like my team is stupid in that league because I got like I had I ended up with like Mahomes like later than he normally would go because of his salary, because everybody had bought the cheap quarterbacks. And then I ended up with Cooper Kupp like 7th round or something like that, because he was like his
Nice.
salary is like 15-20 million and like nobody could afford him. And so I'm my team's really good there. But that's a lot of fun because it was my first time in that type of experience where you're adding the extra dynamic into it. And I feel like redraft, it's like one of these that I don't know. I look at redraft as a pretty solved game where if you stay healthy and you hit on some of the early guys, you hit one late guy, you're probably going to be pretty good on your redraft team. But like the levels of strategy, you can get completely screwed in redraft too, and there's nothing that you can do if you're, I've got one team that I had Christian McCaffrey on it. I had Darren Waller, and he disappointed and got hurt. Christian McCaffrey obviously missed so much time, and so it's like there's no recovery from that team. And so
No.
you're just like, well, I'll do my best, and maybe I'll knock off some random people, but I know that this team is not going to be winning a title, and you're not building for anything when you're not going to win a title.
I don't like redraft at all anymore. That's all I played for a long time was redraft. But I mean, we started out with, you got to drop a piece of paper off your commissioner's house Sunday morning. There was no Thursday night game, so it was Sunday morning at noon. There was the games, and it was Sunday night football and then Monday football. But
Yeah.
you turned your piece of paper in at 11:59, or had to call the phone and wait for the busy signal or do whatever. And then if your guys didn't play at 3 o'clock or 7 o'clock at Monday, you got a zero. It was
Yes.
just what it was. It was kind of I don't like, but one of the redraft leagues I was in, I had a guy draft one of our neighbors. It was kind of a get together, fun league, in my neighborhood. I started up. He drafted like Emmett Smith the year after he retired. Like his team was absolutely terrible. But what happened was there was the same year that Sean Alexander just busted out, and Kurt Warner was like, the greatest show on turf. So every week he had the number one option on the waiver wire because he lost. He built this like by week 5, he started smoking everyone. It's complete luck, It's like, come on. He had the first waiver priority. That's why Fab is so cool too, because that waiver priority is just garbage sometimes.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it took because people don't play, like, especially like your home leagues or whatever. They don't play like in like Fab League, and so like there were a lot of those things where like I picked up on them from Twitter or picked up on them from other experiences and like brought them in. It was like, guys, we're gonna do this now. Like it was like,
Yeah.
because I'm the commission. It's one of those where it's like, well, I'll put this up to vote and we can talk about it. But I know that you guys are going to be like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to change. And it's like, I'm telling you, this is a much better way to do it. And it's like, then we do it and then be like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's us going from regular to PPR was a pain in the butt. Going from one quarterback to super flex was a pain in the butt. Exactly. Now everybody loves it.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, but I do remember one year that like I did a work league, and it was like free, and like I was younger, I was like joking around with everybody, and I drafted guys that were like already like I almost did like a vampire basically, or like a zombie, like without doing
Yeah.
it, and where like I just drafted like retired dudes through the whole thing, and so like I was kind of cocky about it, and I ended up like plucking off the waiver wire, and my team was loaded, and I made the playoffs.
Nice. There is some skill involved. I mean, the people make it out to be like, oh, it's all
There
luck,
is.
but there is some skill involved sometimes.
There
Do you
is
like
certainly, yeah, there's definitely skill involved.
do you like all your leagues to kind of be like, like you said, you're a commissioner of a league. Do you like all your leagues to kind of be pretty much the same so you know what's going on? Or do you like to have like, I don't know, how many leagues are you in, first of all? And then second of all, do you like non PPR in one league and then super crazy scoring in a different league? And then, 40-man rosters in this one and only like 16-man rosters in that league? Like, what do you like to do? What's your like a variety, or are you kind of a vanilla ice cream guy?
Um, I see the value in having variety. So I'm in 15 dynasty leagues, and then I think I'm probably in another 10 or so redraft leagues. A couple of 'em charity leagues. Um, I implore you, if you do a charity league, do it best ball because I think
Yes.
everybody in the industry would agree that to do it best ball, because we all love fishbowl, obviously, and we set those lineups. And I like Warrior Bowl. I did that last year for the first time, like back when I had no followers last summer, and I was just getting involved, and they invited me, and I was so thankful to be included. And so I love that. But like some of the other ones, I'm like, eh, next year I might be a little bit more picky, unless it's best ball. I feel like, because
Yeah.
it's just I love drafting, but then once you get into September and you're just like, man, I'm not playing for anything here, and like I'll be respectful and I'll make my moves, but at the same time, like I just don't care that much
Yeah.
because I'm just kind of playing for bragging rights. But anyways, I do like a variety, but at the same time, it's one of these that I'm more interested in variety, maybe in a charity redraft situation, like trying out the dynasty owner, like stepping into that as
Yeah.
a dynasty league seems way more daunting than just like, let's just try it as a redraft league. But when it comes to dynasty, I do kind of want the same thing because I'm in 15 of them. And
Yeah.
so like there it's like thinking long term, planning long term. Like I don't know that I really want to play with the little weird stuff. And then we have my group of friends. We have our chaos league, is what we call it, and everybody made a rule, and so that one is just random as hell. But that one is dynasty. But that's one of those where it's like, this is a special league to me, and like I'm willing to like take that extra step with this one compared to like some of the other ones. I'm in safe leagues, and I love doing that. I got involved in that during pandemic. I have 6 of those. That's where I'd be like, just kind of want these to be the same thing.
Yeah. I'm on a commission. A lot of my stuff, I have a 500 page list of all the rules I have that my commissioner stuff. Everybody goes nuts. I'm like, it's pinned to message board. Look at the rules. 17, 4, 7. I like my stuff to be cookie cutter, so I know exactly what to tell people. I got it
Mhm.
memorized now. Especially in a new league when nobody knows the rules and nobody wants to read the rules ever. I need to tell everybody exactly what's going on or how to do it. Or it is nice having a lot of cookie cutter leagues. I'm in the European Fantasy Football Contest. It's kind of like a Scott Fishbowl thing. That's it's a redraft one too for charity, but it's it all depends on. It's fun to be in a ton of different leagues, but at the same time, if you really want to go full hearted into it, it's got to be a lot of cookie cutter if you're in that many leagues. So
Yeah, and I
very.
think where it gets tough is just the different platforms. And like I understand, people want to grow a platform and get it, but it's like I forget sometimes,
Yes.
like some of these, like I joined a charity league and like you reached out to me in June, and like I might, like, sure, that absolutely, let's draft in June, and then like it rolls around and I'm like, oh, that's right, I'm on this random this other website, like I forgot about that one for like 3 weeks, and like now I'm like screwed.
Yeah, I'm in a James Catulus Memorial League, and that one's got in week 2 you have to have it's extra points for all your receivers. In week 4 it's a tight end super premium, and it's no quarterbacks can play this week. And it's like, oh shit, I forgot to set my lineup wrong, or
Yeah.
so yeah, I get it. What do you do to prepare yourself every season to make yourself a better and more informed fantasy football player? I mean, people may call this like a simple version of stuff, but I like having like 8 or 9 of my favorite rankers, analyst rankers, and I take all of their hard work, all their blood, sweat, and tears, and what their rankings are, and I rank like each individual play their top 300 every month, top 400, and then I'll redo all of their rankings every month, and then I'll add up all together, see, and then I'll trend like who moved compared to the last month and 2 months ago and 3 months ago. It's an awful lot of work. I do that with all the top 300, 400, and I do the individual running backs and the individual quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends. So it's hours and hours of work, but I think it gives me a really good feel for the I guess the fluidity of the dynasty community. So what do you do? That's all I do. I mean, I'm not going to try and project people's how many touches they're going to get or where they're going to be. It's just that's too much for me. This is my lane. What's your lane? What do you like to do?
A lot of drafts, a lot of so like underdog best ball drafts, like I'm drafting like startup drafts, like Jerry, I'm drafting constantly. And when I'm not drafting in something, the way I like to build my ranks, I don't do projections. I don't know, maybe that's something I might consider, but I like to basically put the gun to my head, and like I'll go through and and Sleeper's great for this because you can set up a mock draft,
Yeah.
and I'll just set up like a running back mock draft, and I will just draft with myself and saying like, who am I taking? Who's on the board? Like, okay, like who's on the board, and like, and sometimes I'll slow play it, and sometimes I'll set like the 30-second timer on like who in my mind, where do I've got these guys? And so like then I'll go back and I'll look at it as like, and how did my results bear out? Is this what I'm doing in practice? Do I agree with like kind of what I set up here? And so that's where I just think that it's drafting is fantasy football is an art. It's not a science. And especially when you're building a team, it's because if you try to make it too much of a science, I think that there's a lot that goes into reading the room and reading the draft and reading the players that you're playing with and reading the tendencies on where they're going, who is going to be available later, knowing who you're playing against. And so studying tendencies is something that I put a high value on, knowing who I'm going against. Those type of game theory type things is really where I think that a lot of the value in fantasy is, knowing that, okay, well, I'm drafting with so and so, and I know that I see their tweets and they're all over Jalen Hurts, and I'm picking before them. And if I take him, then like might be able to extract some value. But at the same time, that's a guy that I like as well. I know that that's my last opportunity to get him, and I put value on those type of things. So it's really just those. I think there's so much value in knowing who you're playing against, knowing how to read the room, knowing how can I go zero RB in this draft? Will that work out for me? Or do I have somebody else in this draft that's going to do the same thing and is going to be targeting for the same guys later? Or do I need to grab this running back now? Just those different tendencies and nuances, but also at the same time, building up those ranks and putting the gun to my head. Where am I going to go?
The biggest problem I had with that before was I've done hundreds of thousands of mock drafts throughout the when ESPN came out with that site and they had mock drafts on there. I was like, oh, this is great. I did thousands. The problem I had was there was a couple problems. First was I would keep rabbit holing the same players almost, and I would try to pick from the one spot, and then I try to pick from the 12 spot, and I try to pick from the 6 spot, and then I try to pick somewhere else all the time different. The biggest problems is I used to like rabbit hole guys every round. Like I'm gonna get this guy, and I keep so you kind of like put yourself in a situation where you're not. I felt like I was hurting myself more than helping myself because I was just kind of doing the same drafts over and over again. And then sometimes you join these drafts and people would come draft the first 1 or 2 rounds and then it would just be computer. And then you knew exactly who the computer was going to take. You're like, oh, this is garbage. I know that the next 3 rounds are going to be nothing but, I can see the people they're going to take. It's not fair. So mock drafts kind of they lost their luster for me. If you can feel what I'm saying, as far as
But
that goes.
that's where Sleeper is nice because you don't have to draft with other people. You can draft by yourself, and you can set up position specific drafts, and you can that's where I don't see any value in mock drafting with other people, and I think it's a tedious, worthless time. I completely agree with you there because one, I did a couple of them because this was my first real year in Scott Fishbowl. I was in the satellite last year, and so this was my first year in it, and so I joined a couple of the mock drafts, and it was like you draft with people and it's like, I know that's not what you would do. And so it's like, why are we doing these things that you're just testing out different strategies? I understand that, but like there's not value in where these guys are actually going to go. And yes, I think that's bad signal data that you're putting it into your head that I can get this guy here. Whereas when I guess the way that I do it by myself, and like especially some of the times, like I'll factor in, like I know that, or like I'll do the underdog draft, and there, even when you've got $3 in there, $5 in
Yeah.
there, you put $3 in there, like it's nothing, but at the same time, like people treat it differently, and so
Sure.
when you're doing a lot of those, you're building the tendencies, and you're kind of knowing, you have a pretty good idea, despite this is what ADP says, but in practice, the people that I'm going to be drafting against, I know that this guy's going to go a full round earlier than what ADP data might suggest.
Yeah. Perfect, man. All right. Let's get to some news, rumors, injuries, stuff like that. This COVID is really kind of taking over the league right now with all this stuff. I mean, there's some regular injuries like Josh Allen's toe. I'm going to go through the teams real fast, kind of talk about injuries, and then you can stop me if you want to chime in or just kind of say if I missed something. But the Bills, Josh Allen, Emmanuel Sanders has some situation going on. The Browns, Kareem Hunt. The Chargers, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, some situations. Tony Pollard, I'm not sure what his story is as far as coming back. Miles Gaskin, Salvin Ahmed, I'm not sure they're coming back. Any Dolphins running back you can grab this.
Yeah, Lindsey's
whoever
gone
started this
too.
week. Yeah, anybody you could start this week, I guess.
I guess, well, you're the Dolphins fan. Is it going to be Duke Johnson? Is it going to be Patrick Laird? Jared Doak's getting the call up.
I'm thinking that are they taking Matt Breida again? Are they moving him? Are they?
Well, he's in Buffalo.
Not Breida. He's at Buffalo now. Who's the who? I don't know why the name's out of my head right now. Who's that? They signed an older guy. They had him for a couple weeks. He got hurt early in the season. No, not Lindsey.
Malcolm Brown, is he right? Is he
Malcolm
back?
Brown? Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of Malcolm Brown, but Malcolm Brown was somebody they were talking about bringing up just to kind of fill in. So hopefully Malcolm Brown will be the situation. I like Malcolm Brown anyway, but I don't really. Whoever is the guy is probably going to get most of the touches anyway because they're just they'll probably use their passing attack. They're not going to employ the run game as much as they probably can't. Anyway, as far as that goes, but. We'll see. It might be the Malcolm Brown show after all. So
I was going to say, I think Malcolm Brown is one of those guys that the coaches like a lot more than us fantasy players like, because I think that he's experienced, he's smart, he knows blitz pickups, things like that. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. He's not going to break anything off, and
yeah,
he might dive into the end zone on a short carry, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to be out there dropping 125 yards for us in fantasy.
I drafted him in the last round of the Fishbowl. A couple other places figured that he was my long shot sleeper for the season to be somebody that was really gonna kill it. And it just didn't work out. So there's bigger fish I could have gone after, I guess. But that was my sleeper. But Eagles, Emmanuel Sanders, Jalen Hurts. I think Sanders coming back. We'll see what happens with Hurts. They're supposed to both be playing this week, but you never really know. 49ers, Elijah Mitchell. The Giants, Kadarius Toney. Jets, hopefully Michael Carter's coming back this week. Tevin Coleman. This sucks. Elijah Moore is about to come back, but at the very end of fantasy season, so that kind of sucks. But Swift might play this week. Go ahead. Will you say something?
Well, Braxton Berrios hanging around there for the Jets. It seems like, I don't know.
Oh my God! I picked him up and started him last week in a Yahoo Fantasy Football League in that Evan Silva League. And I played him last week. I got super lucky. I'm like, I would have never played this guy in my life, and
that's how I was like 2 weeks ago. Because you play, well, especially like these deeper dynasty leagues. Like you're gonna be desperate some weeks, and like it was 2 weeks ago. I played Tavon Austin. I was just desperate as heck, and he scored a touchdown. It's like out of nowhere. It's like, give me my 12 points. All right, thank you. Moving on.
Done. The Lions, Swift, Hockenson. What happened to Hockenson? It says his hand, but is there any reports what happened? Is he broken hand or a thumb or injury or do you hear anything about that? You know anything about that?
I did not. That was one I missed. It was one of those that I just missed it completely. And then I was going through my lineups on Saturday. I was like, "What's why is Hockenson doubtful?" And obviously he missed. But that was one of those that early in the week I missed that he had even gotten hurt. And so I don't know what the situation is.
Yeah, him and Zach Moss with his healthy scratch situation kind of screwed me in some lineups last week at the late scratch stuff. But it is what it is. But hopefully Swift comes back. But I'm not sure the Lions are going to press for luck on their future. Try to rush Swift back to get their second win of the season. So Jamal Williams might be out too. But Aaron Rodgers with his toe, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, he's thrown for like 5,000 yards and 5,000 touchdowns in the last couple of weeks. So his toe doesn't seem to be a problem. But that's him.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever going to stop until the end of the season. DJ Moore had a hamstring situation. Hopefully he's like one of my favorite guys in the league to have to roster. So hopefully that is just a temporary situation. Amir Abdullah is out a little bit. Damian Harris, I'm fully, if he's out, I'm 100% in on Ramondre Stevenson. So
I think many people are. I don't blame you for being there.
yeah, he was somebody I drafted late, and I had on most of my teams because nobody knew who he was. But I like the big fast,
Yep.
the big fast guys who can
Yeah,
catch.
I was higher on him than a lot of people too, because there were a lot of people last year that were on Gainwell and he's looked fine, but it's like you kind of look at these guys and it's like, well, that he's not going to get more than 10 touches in a game, and if half of those are rushes, certainly there's value in the passing game, but Ramonde is a guy that you can give him the ball 25 times.
Ramondre Stevenson's a guy like, he can block good. He can catch out of the backfield good. He's a goal line back. He's fast. He can kind of run it out. He's not super fast, but he's fast enough to cut it to the outside. He's somebody that the Patriots have always had. Those guys always have specialty guys. They've always had a pass catcher. They've always had a goal line back. Stevenson just seems like somebody like they've never really had before that can do everything. He's not great at everything. He's not a specialist at any one thing, but he can do everything pretty damn well. So he's a well-rounded player. I'm not sure what's going on with Darren Waller. He's been a week thing, and then now it's 3-week thing. So hopefully he'll be back soon. The Rams might he might have to forfeit a week here. Like the whole team's got COVID all of a sudden. I don't know what they're going to do, but they shut down the facility and stuff today. So Lamar Jackson's ankle. Hopefully that's not bad. He's a big fantasy. I don't have him anywhere, but he's a big fantasy asset for a lot of people. I'm not playing anybody.
Me. So this past week he got me good because it was this was doubly frustrating. So I was going for a bye and I was a game up on the person and I had beat him head to head, and so that's a different conversation for a different day whether or not. But I had Lamar, and so I lost my matchup that would have given me the bye by like 15 points. And then I lost to the other guy on season total points by like 20 points in this game that I had Lamar Jackson going and I had James Robinson going. And so that was just like, this is a double punch here because it lost me the head to head that would have locked it up. And then it lost me the total points on the season too.
That sucks. I got screwed out of a bunch of. Most of my leagues are set up where it's 4%. If you win your division, you get 4%. So there's 4 divisions with 3 teams per division. So all 4 division winners get a 4% of the pot for winning your division. The last 2 wild cards are both the best points, the highest point scores didn't make the playoff or didn't win a division. And then whoever gets the first round bye gets an additional 4%. So you pretty much get your money back for in a 12-team league, almost just about for winning your division and getting the first round bye. Right. So it's a nice incentive.
Yeah.
Tyler Heineke, he took a beating last week. I don't know what his knee's hurting right now. Terry McLaurin, he landed pretty funny. That was kind of a hard hit. I don't know what's going to happen with him. He should be back this week, from what I understand. J.D. McKissic's coming back after Gibson's terrible game. I don't know what they're going to do with Gibson, if they're going to give him another chance, or hopefully he holds on to the ball this week. And I don't want McKissic to come in and steer all the passing down again. I was finally starting to feel good about Gibson, but now this is a stick in the spokes of production for my team. And anything else you can think of, or injury wise, or?
No, I think you hit it pretty good. I think we're all kind of waiting and watching, see what happens with AJ Brown, whether he's not back for the fantasy playoffs, really. And then the hint that was dropped this past week that might have flown under the radar that Derrick Henry's expected to be back, and so he might be flying in here for. It's Derrick Henry. I just see him flying in here for Week 16 and swinging at anybody that might still be alive.
They need him. I mean, they're going to lose their playoff spot if they don't start, picking up the slack a little bit, but.
All these teams except for the Patriots and now the Chiefs, it's like feels like everybody's just falling apart.
Yeah. All right, waiver ads real fast for Week 13. We'll do the quarterbacks. I mean, if these are pretty much in dynasty leagues, these guys are all taken, but there's a lot of redraft people out here. Taysom Hill, he did real good last week. He's got a tough matchup versus Tampa Bay this week, so I temper your expectations a little bit. But my guy Tua, I have him in a lot of leagues, but he seems to be. I didn't know what to think for a while. He kept getting hurt all the time, and but it looks like he's picking up the slack. So I'm kind of happy to have him now. A guy I traded away, Justin Fields. I mean, he looks good for fantasy, but he doesn't look good as a football player. So I know he's your guy. He's an Ohio State guy, but I didn't I didn't think he was going to pan out in the pros. I didn't like him really at Ohio State. It's just somebody I don't like that style of football, that running around like backyard football, kind of like Lamar Jackson, the Justin Fields, even to an extent like Josh Allen. Sometimes it's frustrating to watch these guys like just throw the. I mean, if the NFL was back in the days of Tom Brady, like kind of like the Mac Jones and Tom Brady, Dan Marino and Tom Brady and Mac Jones stuff now. That's just my version of football, and I just don't like the backyard kind of football thing that's going on now. Jimmy Garoppolo's another waiver wire thing here.
But Justin Fields is not that type of quarterback. So Justin Fields he has that skill. Justin Fields is an excellent passer. The Bears have like the worst offensive line in football. They are not giving that kid a chance at all. And so that's where he needs to run out and make plays. And then whatever is going on with Allen Robinson, either Allen Robinson is washed or he's dogging it because he doesn't want to be in Chicago. He wanted to get out last year and then they've tagged him, but he has not been Allen Robinson all year. And so when you've got your primary receiver, he's really not even the primary receiver anymore because Darnell Mooney has stepped up. You've got your primary receiver that's dogging it. Your offensive line is not giving you a moment of time, and your coach is 2 feet out the door. I mean, nobody's going to succeed in that situation. But I do think that Fields is a player that I think it's not fair to like the Lamar comparison. Like they're just different players completely. And just from what I've seen, that Justin Fields is the type that if you protect him, he's able to pick you apart with his arm.
He's like an alligator. He's like solid muscle, and he's fast.
Yes.
Lamar is quick and fast, and Justin Fields is fast, but he's not quick. He's too muscular to be shifty like Lamar Jackson. But he's only a rookie. And every one of these rookies, besides, well, I can't even say Mac Jones looks good because he threw the ball 3 times last game, or whatever.
Well, it's like fantasy Twitter's losing their mind about Mac Jones. And he throws for 125 yards and he gets you like 8 points. It's like, What are we doing? I understand that you're excited that your rookie pick hit, but like it's one of these that I just don't understand. I don't know the value that he's going. If you got him at the 112 in a super flex, sure, you can be happy with that you've got a starting quarterback, but you've got a quarterback 2 at best. He's not going to be. I just feel like there's this segment out there that of the Mac Jones believers that feel like he's going to turn into Tom Brady when he's got Randy Moss in his prime throwing 50 touchdown passes. And
no,
maybe I'll be wrong, but I do not think Mac Jones would be lucky to have Kirk Cousins upside.
Mac Jones is Alex Smith 10 years ago.
Without running.
Alex
Smith could run.
Well, he never. Yeah, but he would be good for 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. That's the thing. Yeah, guys who come in there and don't throw any picks. He's a perfect QB2 because he's going to get you a steady 18 to 25 points almost on a regular basis. And that's for a QB2 that you can depend on that every game. That's Superflex or a 2 quarterback league. That's perfect.
I like to get 2 good quarterbacks.
Yeah, I traded for Mahomes and Josh Allen on almost every league, and they kind of, it's like sometimes you think, shit, I should have just waited. It's like these, I waited, and I did the opposite. I waited on Tannehill in a bunch of leagues too, and it didn't get me shit either. So
I had one dynasty league that I made the playoffs now, and like I made a big trade in the middle of the season to get Dak Prescott, and I already had Mahomes. But then like now I've got Taysom Hill. I had Taysom Hill, and it was like I was struggling along with my second quarterback spot, like filling it with like random people whoever I could find. So I got Dak, and then it's like now I hit the playoffs, and like man, it's like looking at it, I was like I almost want to play Taysom Hill over Dak.
Yeah,
Prescott.
right. I don't blame you. You're gonna get your fantasy points. I can't stand Taysom Hill. That style of offense just makes me sick. But
yeah,
I get it. It's for fantasy people. It's not a long-term solution unless you're on the Saints, I guess. But I don't know. Moving on. Here's the running backs: Ramondre Stevenson, Deonta Foreman, Rashard Penny is a. People who've been holding on to Rashad Penny for 3 or 4 years now, hoping that he'd finally pan out, and then they didn't start him this week when he finally panned out. But it seems like he was going to get another shot this week, is what the coach is trying to say. My least favorite person in the entire NFL is saying that Rashad Penny is going to be the lead back now. So Justin Jackson may be an option if something's going on with the starter there. Craig Reynolds from the Lions. Who would have thought? You know, Royce
I did
Freeman.
not see that one coming. I didn't see anything about Craig Reynolds all week long.
Adam Schefter was the only person. Everybody kept. I heard at work today. I listened to like 15 podcasts, and Adam Schefter was the only person that said like, "Hey, you should start this Craig Reynolds guy. He might be something." And sure enough, like he took a shot at it, with a bow and arrow from 1,000 yards away and hit right in the head on that one. So good for him. Royce Freeman for the Texans. I've loved Royce Freeman. I've wanted him to, he's that little toy that everybody wants to kind of become something, or the flower that you want to become into a humongous, awesome tree. He doesn't seem to be panning out, but he might get his chance this week if nobody's going in Houston. Jordan Howard and Kenneth Gainwell from the Eagles are coming back, but so is Miles Sanders. So, who knows what's happening in that backfield. Dearness Johnson for the Browns, now that Hunt's out, might be a decent pickup for passing yardage. And then whoever's playing, we talked about before, whoever's playing for the Dolphins versus the Jets this week would probably be a great pickup. Any other running backs you can think of?
That's a pretty exhaustive list. I think you hit just about everybody.
Yeah, wide receivers, Russell Gage, Devontae Parker is coming back this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a good game. It's nice to see these rookies when you grab them panning out sooner than later. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Josh Reynolds, I started him a couple leagues last week. It ended up pretty nice. Kendrick Bourne from the Patriots. Gabriel Davis is somebody that, he was a doubting at the end of last year and didn't really. Now that Emmanuel Sanders is out of the picture, Gabriel Davis is might be a nice option. Robbie Anderson, Rashard Bateman, again, hopefully. He got a lot of snaps this last week. He ran to like 85% of the routes. So hopefully Bateman is something. Any other receivers you think of?
If you're in a deep dynasty league, this sounds ridiculous, but the guy that has gotten some work recently and has put up some decent numbers, if you're in a very deep league, was Laquan Treadwell from the Jaguars.
Yeah.
He's hit like that 10 to 12 range for the last couple of weeks, and so he's running at like 90% of the Jag snaps, and they just don't have anybody there. And so they finally got Marvin Jones the ball this past week, but even then, Treadwell still was able to get like 4 for 63. So that's a guy that if you are in a deep league and you just need somebody, a body to plug in, that's a guy to consider.
Nice. Tight ends, Austin Hooper, Tyler Conklin, maybe.
He's got COVID. He popped up today.
Son of a biscuit. That's great.
Yeah, I think Hooper popped up today with COVID, I believe. I think it's uncertain if Njoku is going to be back from the COVID list, but I do think that Harrison Bryant is back to practice. I thought I saw today. And whoever the Browns use their tight ends, this position is like the most frustrating, I feel like, because all these guys, if they were just the guy, like they would be tight end one. But they have all three of them, and so all three of them get just a little bit, so they're all three make them unusable. But just if you're out there, if you're ever in a situation where two of these Browns tight ends are out, then play the third one.
Especially next year, because I think that Hooper and Njoku are both gone as far as contracts are concerned. So, I mean, that's I'd be holding on to Harrison Bryant if I had a chance, or picking him up now late in the season. If you're
in a dynasty that still allows trades, that's a good one to look at. That somebody might be not even think about him, especially that's the type of guy that you can sneak through as a trade, as a throw in on a deal too. I think because we're out of that rookie excitement, and we're really at the end of year 2 and he hasn't done anything. And we know that tight ends can take a minute, but that's a guy that do a bigger trade and throw Harrison Bryant in there as the throw in, and you might luck into a starter next year.
All right. I got real fast that you mind answering like 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll evaluate the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We got Froggy here. My wide receivers are Pittman, Higgins, Waddle, Evans, and Lockett. Pick 2 or 3. I don't know. I have so many choices for that flex, man. What do I do? Round 1 to playoff seed versus the 5th seed. Pittman's got a tough matchup. T. Higgins,
he's really
Waddle.
calling out.
Yeah. I mean, Evans is people hate when I say this, but Evans is such a boomer bust player sometimes. He gets 34 yards one week and he's got 3 touchdowns and 150 yards the next week. Tyler Lockett's a must go. I mean, he's a with Russell just seems him and Lockett are just special together. If I got to pick two of them, I'm probably picking Waddle and Lockett here. How about yourself?
Yeah, if I were picking two, I'd go Waddle, Lockett. It's really close with T. Higgins being in there too. T. Higgins had monster weeks back to back, and then he was a little bit quieter this week. But Evans, it worries me going up against Lattimore. I think I'd rank him pretty low out of this list. And then Pittman has really just not gotten much of anything lately too. And so Evans and Pittman would be my guys that I would sit in a pick 3 situation.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thanks for the question there, Froggy. And then, all right. So every week we evaluate a team. We're gonna try and get this. I'm gonna skip the trades and stuff. I took up most of your time already.
Good,
every
man.
week we evaluate a team that just sent in by listeners, and we decide if it's a simple remodel or a full scale rebuild. What's the biggest team needs here? Who's your keep, trade, cut guys, and who would you trade for to improve this team, and what would you do to make it better? So let me pull this up real fast. We'll just spend a couple minutes getting this going. All right. So here is the team. It's a dynasty superflex tight end. It's actually 0.5 tight end premium. Roster of 12 teams, 25 man deep, plus 10 IR spots. No taxi squad. Players are put directly on the rosters after the rookie draft. There's 10 starters, a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex, and a super flex. No defense kickers. You get like bonuses for it's 5 touchdown and two interception, 300, 400 yard bonuses, 6 points for 100 yards rushing and receiving, that kind of stuff. So the quarterback, you could see this, right?
Yep.
Okay. The quarterback situation, he's got Mahomes, Tua, Zach Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Davis Mills. The running back situation, Michael Carter, Miles Sanders, Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Moss, DJ Dallas, Larry Roundtree, Chris Evans, Eno Benjamin, Justin Jackson, Scotty Phillips, Travis Homer. Nobody special there. DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Elijah Moore, Juju, Donovan Peoples-Jones, MVS, Rager, De'Ami Brown, Amari Rodgers, Amir Smith-Merced, Tylen Wallace, Ashton Doolin. That's spelled wrong. That's my fault. Hunter Henry,
good.
Adam Troutman, Evan Ingram, Gerald Everett, Tommy Tremble, OJ Howard, Foster Moreau, Max Williams. So looking at this team, I'm going to try to make a little bit. So what do you think, starting with the quarterback position in a super flex, you need at least 2 quarterbacks that are starting. Hopefully Zach Wilson picks up the pace a little bit. I like Zach. What do you think about Zach Wilson?
I'm not a fan, honestly. I just never I don't really buy it. I think he's played better lately than what he was looking a couple weeks ago. I am worried with Elijah Moore being out for him because it seemed like they had a special connection there. But I mean, I'm fine in this team of him being your quarterback 3, hoping that he's going to get you more because I think that the general consensus is pretty down on him. So I don't think the value is going to be there in a trade really, unless somebody is desperate at quarterback. But that puts you behind the 8 ball at quarterback. I'm fine with this quarterback situation though.
All right. Running backs here. Michael Carter, young stud. Miles Sanders. I love the guy. He just never pans out. I think it's kind of. I hope it's not fool's gold that I'm holding on to him this long. I had an opportunity to trade him for a first round pick earlier in the year, and I passed it up, figuring that he's gonna be the man. And now I'm back down to I can't even get a 3rd round pick for him now. Ramondre Stevenson, we talked about him earlier. Zach Moss is somebody that he's somebody that he can catch, he can pass, but he's just a little bit slower than everybody else, and everybody makes him out. He's not carrying a piano on his back, the guy. I mean, he moves a little bit, but everybody says how slow he is all the time. I still like him. I hope for next year that he'll go somewhere and actually be a productive member of a backfield or circulation anyway. DJ Dallas. Yeah, I mean, had potential to be a receiving back, but it seems like Penny just took that job over. Dallas still has some time to prove himself somewhere else. Roundtree, Chris Evans, Eno Benjamin, Justin Jackson might get a shot to do something this week. Scotty Phillips from the Texans, he's still an IR. Travis Homer, he's a gadget guy, but I mean, you need guys to fill roles on this team needs a stud. They need an RB1 to compete. I think at running back, you just can't have a million nobodies. But um, I mean, I like Stevenson, but he won't be you can't depend on him every week as a stud.
Yeah, this feels like I'm not a Carter guy either. So I think Carter right now is a guy that I would look to deal because I think that, especially if Matt has a big game, but we might be a couple weeks late on that deal. But if I can trade him he's a guy that you would have taken early second, I assume. If you could trade him for somebody's excited about him as being a rookie back and you can get another first round pick in the 23 draft, that's where I'd be looking at this team, especially looking at this running back group and kind of looking at this wide receiver group. And when we get down to the tight end group, this feels like the type of team that I would be aggressively going for early 23 picks because there are so many running backs in that draft. Like I just look at this whole group of running backs and I like Stevenson and but there's nothing special here at all. And
right.
I almost feel like once you get past Stevenson on this list, you can't drop these guys in dynasty because they could land in jobs and you don't have anybody else that you're really replacing them with. But at the same time, I think we'd be shocked if any of these guys ended up as starters.
I mean, Chris Evans, I think, is a very underrated player. That's somebody
that's a fine piece to hold. I think that hope that he ends up in that Gio Bernard role and you get some passing game utility out of him. But I'm certainly not saying cut these guys out. Like Scotty Phillips or Travis Homer's a guy that you could probably cut. But other than that, they're holds because, Benjamin, you don't know how that backfield's going to shake out in free agency because Connor and Edmonds are both hitting free agency. So even if I would expect they're going to replace them with somebody, but you know how dynasty works. Like those guys are off the roster. Eno's the only guy there. You're going to have a window in January where you might be able to trade him for something. But I don't think there's anything special on this list.
No. The wide receiver room, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Elijah Moore. What do you think about the wide receivers here?
I like the good young group of wide receivers. Juju's a guy that I feel like I still fall into more than most in the community now. Donovan Peoples-Jones, you've got him as a keep. I've got him I think he's a great trade candidate and especially I think Jarvis Landry has now got COVID. If trades are still open in your league, somebody's going to buy in on that. And I don't know that I might be wrong, but I don't know that I see him as a consistent fantasy starting wide receiver. I think he's kind of just that big play guy that might get replaced down the line. Jalen Reagor's a guy that I would be aggressively looking to get off my roster for literally anything I can get for him at this point. But other than that, I think that this is a good group of young wide receivers, a good core to build around.
Donovan Peoples-Jones is a Michigan guy, right?
He is a Michigan guy.
He's a
big recruit. I mean, he's a big time recruit and he's made plays, but it's also, do you see him as a guy that's going to be getting 12 targets?
No, but I could see 6, 7, and if he makes something happen on, the 6 or 7, if he catches 4 or 5 of the 7 targets he gets on a regular basis, I would think not 12, but how many people in the NFL? I mean, how many people in the NFL get 12 targets a game?
Yeah, but I just know that the dynasty game that we play, you'll find somebody in your league that is they see a young wide receiver and making some plays, and I think they might be able to give you a little bit more value than what he's actually worth.
Okay, fair. Hunter Henry, Adam Troutman. A lot of people are down on Hunter Henry. I still like the guy. Troutman next year, hopefully he'll be able to produce what he was supposed to be doing this year. Evan Ingram is somebody, again, people hate him. They love kicking him when he's down, but he can go anywhere next year and produce. He's only 25, right? Maybe 26.
Yeah.
He's still pretty young. And he's got pedigree.
He does.
Gerald Everett's somebody I like. I think that is, at one point in time when the season started, his value was skyrocket. Now it kind of fell down to earth again. Tommy Tremble's more of a blocking tight end, but the guy can catch still. He's talented. But the Panthers don't throw the ball to tight end very often. So O.J. Howard, if Grant leaves, he could be a gold mine if he stays in Tampa Bay. Foster Moreau looks like crap out there, but we'll see what happens with him. Max Williams hurt. Max Williams is like a super freak. His numbers, his college dominator, his everything. this guy is somebody that I just thought was going to pan out a couple years ago when he came to the NFL, and just nothing. I know he had a couple injuries and stuff, but I love Max Williams coming in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fine depth group of tight ends. Do you know how the draft pick is like how draft picks are done in this league?
Yeah, it's there's a first, a third, fourth, fifth.
Right,
So
but is
it's
it based on your he doesn't even have his 23 first anymore?
he's got a no 23 first.
Okay, well he's already gotten rid of his 23 first. That's where like I, because it's like some of these leagues that's based on potential points and some of them is based on record, and so feels like that tight end group feels like a situation that if you're in a league that is based on potential points, it just one of these that there's no right answer there, but there's like enough decent okay answers, but you're going to end up guessing wrong, and there it's like the type of thing where like if you can get a higher draft pick that by not having these guys on your bench that score points that are on your bench. Like
Yeah,
that's Hunter Henry's probably your guy that you're going to start most weeks in right now in this team, but it's like one of these that if you've got all these guys, you don't have one guy,
yeah, right. No, I get it. Yeah, that's all right. Let me stop sharing this so we can go back to our regular screen. Well, that's kind of anything. What's the last suggestions you'd have for that team? Anything you just try to trade all this piece away for? Like it is potential points that do max points for is what they do it on sleeper. So potential points, max points for is what determines. We have a lotto thing. So it's actually a 96 balls in a little machine. Everybody shows up. We do the lotto. Everybody goes freaks out. Scott Sidlow was in the league last year. He had the 38 balls, the 28 balls, and then the 22 balls. And he's like, this out of 6, he had like 65% chance of hitting any of them, and he got the 4, 5, 6. It couldn't have worked out any better. He was like, son of a bitch, I traded everything away for these picks, and I got nothing.
That's rough. That's rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those that, God, that not having a like real stud running back on there, I feel like I would go for in the youth. There's a lot of good youth on that team. You like the building foundation pieces at quarterback and at wide receiver. I feel like I might aggressively take 1 year to try to land some high draft capital. Not having your own 23 first, I feel like eliminates that possibility because if you the moment you start, you've been in these leagues, the moment you start to give a whiff that might be the direction you're going to move, that you're not getting that pick off somebody because they want to be able to make the playoffs and pick first with your pick. So that's where it's kind of like, I don't know, like what's the record for that team?
I can look it up, but they're not. I think they are. Which one is this? This is they're in the draft lottery. They didn't make the playoffs this year. So
I was going to say it didn't strike me as a particularly strong roster, and that's where you're like you don't want to be stuck in that middle ground where because I just don't think that I don't know I'm probably lower on Carter than a lot of people are. Like I just don't see him as going to be a long-term dynasty running back one, and so if that's your best running back, you're already kind of behind the 8 ball at that position. That's where I would see an opportunity outside of these quarterbacks and maybe the top end wide receivers to get draft picks. And something that I love to do is when I'm really dialed in on my dynasty leagues, like you take your third and then like as the value pops up for guys for a week, you find that person in your league that's desperate at that position and you take your third and that random player that's got some incremental value at the time and you get their second. And, like one of these things that like you can continue to build and roll up as you're paying attention and grabbing, especially running backs. And so that's the one thing that they do have a lot of young, like depth running backs that could step into value. But that's one of those that if you're not concerned about winning in that particular year, you can reap a lot of value doing that way and build up draft capital and keep rolling things up because somebody's not it's one thing to walk in there with Donovan Peoples-Jones and ask for a first round pick. That's not going to happen. Yeah. But when you start to build it up, and then all of a sudden you've got that second round pick, and now you're throwing Donovan Peoples-Jones in the second round pick for the first round pick, and you never know where these picks are going to end up in the future. And so, and everybody trading their first thinks that their team is good, and their teams might not end up being very good. But that's one of those that I think there's a lot of value to be reaped in Dynasty on if you are patient with that and look for those windows of value, and especially in a year where you're willing to not win and capitalize on those. Like I'm in one Dynasty league, and it's a 20-team Dynasty, and like I ended up with Michael Thomas, and obviously he went out, but then like I hit on Mike Williams, and I hit on like Joe Mixon was good, obviously, but it was one of the, I knew my team wasn't going to be good enough to make the playoffs in this league because during the draft, I had moved down several times or like accumulated or like rookie draft picks for next year. And so like when Mike Williams, I flipped him for Calvin Ridley because I knew like, okay, this is capitalizing on some potential short-term value, but I'm willing to take this year and lose this year. Or like I hit a couple running backs off the waiver wire, and immediately, like the moment that they get buzzy on Twitter, like I'm sending them out for second round picks, third round picks, because like you can do that and build a real war chest that you're able to turn into multiple other picks. Or we all know how rookie draft season works, and if somebody's thirsty for that pick, all of a sudden the deal in October that they would never consider, then they're tossing you a starting wide receiver for 2 second-round picks or something like that. So those deals are always open available too.
Mm-hmm. Last question, then we'll get out of here. Start 2: Mooney, Ayuk, Osborne, or Pittman. I don't know. I guess these are. I guess I'm going to go Ayuk and Osborne here.
I'd go Ayuk and Mooney here, I think.
Mooney and Osborne are probably pretty close.
Yeah.
I just it's all right. That's what I would do. That's what you do. But Jeff, this was awesome. Thanks for. I mean, I don't know how you're still talking right now. I'm already hoarse, and I just did an hour show, so I don't know for you to do this all night. Thank you very much. This is my commissioner evaluation show. This is kind of what I do for my little hobby here. Thanks for coming on. One more time, tell the Twitter world where where they could find you, but they already know. But go ahead and tell them anyway.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, John, for having me on. A joy and pleasure to talk to you and going through all this. I'm very appreciative of you reaching out. You can find me on Twitter at 4WhomJBellTolls, and then you can find me on Fantasy Pros, find me on the Debbie Royale, find me on Coming Off the Edge on Tuesday nights.
I love that Twitter handle, by the way, for whom JBell.
Thank you very much.
It is super cool.
I get a lot of people that stands out. So that's my recommendation to you out there in the Twitter sphere, that if you're looking to grow your account, think of a good handle.
Yeah, right. I got John McGlynn 75. That's super boring.
He's good, man. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and thank you, Jeff. Talk to you later.
Thank you.